Some Republican 2024 candidates are responding to Donald Trump's indictment. Vivek Ramaswamy says he sent a letter to his fellow presidential hopefuls calling on them to commit to a Trump pardon.
I have demanded that every other candidate in this race either sign this commitment to pardon on January 20th, 2025, or else to explain why they are not.
What we're saying is...
Yesterday, GOP candidate Nikki Haley said she would be, quote, inclined in favor of a pardon for Trump if she is elected president. CBS News politics reporter Aaron Navarro joins us now from Washington with more. So, Aaron, these candidates running for office and trying to get some traction with the MAGA base, you know, not one of these Republicans that are coming out and attacking the Department of Justice, attacking the judge, attacking President Biden has said that Donald Trump did not do what he is alleged to have done. I mean, they're not saying that. They're just attacking the process. So how are other GOP candidates responding now to this call for pardoning?
So, first of all, good morning, Vlad and Anne-Marie. On this call to pardon, which you mentioned was started by Ramaswamy, Haley's been the only one to really answer that. She said she's inclined to pardon Trump, but also said that's premature since he hasn't been convicted. But to zoom out a bit on the field overall, it's been a bit of a mixed bag on this indictment that leans towards siding with Trump. His biggest rival in this primary, Governor Ron DeSantis, laid out a plan to end the, quote, weaponization of the Department of Justice yesterday, perhaps a sign his camp, his candidacy, is not looking to fully alienate those soft Trump supporters just yet. But others, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, Mike Pence, have all gone a bit further and said this case and the allegations are serious. Pence, this morning on CNBC, said he can't, quote, defend the alleged actions in this indictment, but that Trump is, quote, entitled to his day in court. So a mixed bag from the 2024 field so far.
But, you know, all Donald Trump cares about is whether or not Republican voters are still supporting him. And frankly, that's what some of these other candidates are watching to see, too, to determine how they should approach this issue. What is the feeling amongst Republican voters when it comes to this indictment? Do they care?
That's right. When I was in Oklahoma over the weekend covering Governor Ron DeSantis, I met two voters that lean towards DeSantis, but say that this indictment, these charges are too political. One called it BS to me. I met another voter, though, that said, you know, as a veteran, that if he had these classified documents, they would already have sent him to prison. But when you look overall at the GOP primary field, our latest CBS News poll shows that 80% of those primary voters don't think that if Trump is convicted, that that it would be a disqualifying factor for him getting to the White House. They still think 80% do that he should still be able to be elected president, even if convicted in this case. So overall, Republican voters have sided with Trump. It's been there's a lot of context here for how Republican voters feel about the DOJ, and what politicians have been saying is the weaponization of the DOJ and FBI. You can look back at 2016 with Hillary Clinton on how Republican primary voters feel about that. But overall, it's not a whole lot of support for Jack Smith and this investigation among Republican-based primary voters at this moment.
All right. It's the last time the former president was indicted. The last time. The former president.
First time.
Yes, I mean...
there'll be another one, probably.
We're waiting to see what happens in Georgia, but it's just sort of surreal to be saying that. His campaign reported a huge fundraising boost. What are we seeing this time around? And Aaron, you no doubt saw the interview that former House Speaker Paul Ryan gave on CBS Mornings this week, where he said, look, he may raise a lot of money, but at the end of the day, Donald Trump hasn't won anything since 2016. His candidates did not do well in the last election. And he believes, as do other Republicans who are not in office, that if Trump is the Republican nominee, that the Republicans will lose again in 2024.
Yeah, that's kind of the subtle argument made by a lot of his rivals. But on the money bit, Trump's campaign said before his fundraiser they're expecting to raise $2 million during this. We'll see more definitively after those campaign finance reports come. But this boost for Trump after big events like this, many rival campaign strategists have been quick to point out in the past couple weeks, it's been more before. In that month or so, in the months during his first impeachment in 2020, he raised $46 million. That's when he was actively president. On the day after his first indictment in New York, he brought in $4 million. There's a base of $2 million here. While many other candidates have been stocking their war chest. DeSantis is fundraising in Florida and Vegas all week today, or all week. Senator Tim Scott came in with $20 million. So even despite these big events and these surges in fundraising and maybe polls that Trump sees, the money battle in the 2024 race is a bit more level than many people would expect. And thus it grants this argument that these candidates have subtly been making, but maybe could be forcefully more making as this race goes on, that Trump can't win in the general election.
Aaron Navarro, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.